Okay, rulers, settle down. Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to get pre-orders of all the upcoming Force of Will sets, as well as releases of previous sets after they come out. ccgprime.com with over 100,000 Force of Will singles, as well as out-of-print boxes from the past, and TCG accessories, as well as fowlibrary.com, a wonderful resource for deck lists, article discussions, and more. Check them out at fowlibrary.com, as well as these amazing patrons. Special thanks to guest lecturer patrons Shukong Fu, Vite Ramen, and Maxime Van He. Thank you for your support. Class is in session. Hey there, rulers! Welcome back after a long week of Force of Will to your favorite ever live Force of Will vodcast. It's Office Hours, joined by myself, DMO73, and I'm joined, as always, by Mike Rance and Paul Reisman. The two of us on Team Instinct, and Mike Rance being on Team Wisdom, I think. Are you also on Team Instinct?
That's the kind of pace eater shit that Team Instinct guys do. Anyway, I've demonetized you 2 minutes in. Let's go.
Well, the joke's on you. The countdown was 3 minutes. Hey!
Hey, demonetized.
So, I do want to talk about a few things before we get started. As always, super grateful to have you all here. Hope you guys are happy about these spoilers like we are. Very excited for this new cluster to talk about new spoilers. But before we get into that, if you like what we do and you want to consider supporting the channel, you can click that little join button down below and join the channel as a member. It is the easiest way to support us financially. It gets you access to cool emotes and at higher tiers other cool stuff, as well as chats during the GP streams, which actually this weekend is Minnesota stream, so if you want to be a part of that.
Hey.
Also, cool thing is that if you want to be able to gift memberships to other people, you absolutely can now. That is a new feature that you can click on the join button and you can give memberships to other people in the chat. So that's a cool way to spread the love and help get people into the chats, which is very, very cool. So, also want to do, that Rulers Odyssey Games has a link in the description for pre-orders of the new set, and if you buy the 2 starter decks together, you actually get $2 off. So it's cheaper to buy both starter decks together, and pre-orders for the new set are up there. And then also there's a link in the description for FowFest in November of this year, already shaping up to be huge. I just ordered the playmats as well as a bunch of the other surprises that I have around arranged. I just ordered those. So very, very excited to jump into that. So I hope you guys check it out. Okay, that's our intro stuff out of the way. Let's talk spoilers. The Marvel Rares got spoiled. All 5 of them. And honestly, overall, pretty balanced. Like, some of the most, feels like a Marvel, doesn't feel game-breaking that we've seen from Marvels in quite a while. I don't know, would you guys agree?
I think. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they feel like Marvels, but there's nothing that's like, oh, this is going to shatter the format. They feel strong. They feel strong, but designed properly.
In comparison to older Marvel rares that we've gotten, they don't feel nearly as impactful.
Yeah.
But that makes me feel like they are more of the glue to the strategy.
Mm-hmm. They will probably be important, but also not have it in your opener or die, which sometimes Marvel rares in the past have very much felt like have it in your opener or die. Which is nice. Have Black, good to have you here. Vampire, Visheri Gaucho, Strange Jank, good to see you all here in the chat. So let's talk about the first one. We have the Flight of the Holy Sword. 1 white, 1 blue. Quick cast, choose 1. Non-magic stone entities you control gain Eternal and Barrier until end of turn. Or until the end of game, you may play all Godsart abilities you have already played in the game an additional time. So a Godsart Reloaded, which is, for the deck that's all about Godsarts. Makes a lot of sense. And then if you awaken it, you can contract it with Aristella the Twin Prince. So we actually kind of called it last week. When we talked about the Marvel rare totally potentially being another contract for Aristella to make up for the fact I did call it to make up for the fact that Aristella's first order is so mediocre. And before you're like, oh well, Jeremy must have known. I legitimately didn't. I have not seen any cards from this set.
Jeremy only
except
knows
for the
what Jeremy knows.
Except for the 3 cards that we have for our exclusive spoiler coming on August 13th. Ooh. So let's talk about the other side. Let's talk about the J-Ruler side. This is Excalibur Chrono Gear, the other mech. It is a 2020 with flying, unenter, destroy all other non-Magic Stone entities. That's on both sides of the field, mind you. Players cannot chase to this ability, and if damage would be dealt to you, it's dealt to this card instead. There's a reason why you're using it to give all of your own stuff Eternal and Barrier, so that you can then blow everything else up.
Everything explode.
I mean, this card's cool. This card is just cool. Visually, it's cool. Aesthetically, it's cool. Support-wise, it's cool. J-Ruler-wise, it's cool.
Bro, I love final stage XYZ monsters. Those are my favorite things about Force of Will.
Yeah. Number what was it? Number
Utopia card and
I was about to say number 39 Excalibur Chrono Gear Utopia. Excalibur Utopia Chrono Gear.
I also really like the fact that this is a J-Ruler Chrono Gear, not J-Ruler Gears. They have to make sure that you know that one of them is a Chrono Gear.
And one of them is a Gears. Yeah, for
wow.
sure.
Gear.
Amazing.
A time gear.
We're time friends.
It's a gear.
Yeah, this card is great. You know, being the fact that it's an Awakening 4 cost, I mean, we're in an era, again, that can be canceled. There's lots of things that can be interacted with it. So it's not like...
Fairer Spell. Like,
we also have Fairer Spell, right?
Oops.
So, like, that's one of the reasons why I'm like, the design space isn't crazy for, you know, is it not insane that this is just going to slam down all the time? I think it's well designed. I also really like the fact that its front side is actually just castable without trying to awaken it. Like, it has good things of, like, protection, reset your God's Arts, because we know RSL is, from what we'll see later, is all about lots of God's Arts.
Tells me that front side is Valentina 2.0 support, I'm going to shit my lid. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Valentina 2 is pretty much dead on arrival because of the change in ruling that she doesn't keep. Well, too. But also she doesn't keep her God's Arts when she dies. Like, immediately killed her as a tech.
You like that phrasing?
Yeah.
I feel like you really just enjoyed that.
Just immediately killed her. So yeah, this card's very, very cool. I like it a lot.
Black says, "Wait, you can actually cancel judgments?" Yes,
you can.
Main deck now, baby.
So Have, so that's a good question, Have. So with contracts, because you have to resolve the contract chant, and the chant itself is what flips over into being the J-Ruler. If they cancel the chant, that would let you contract. You don't successfully flip the chant over. That being said, because your J-Rulers are tied to chants, we have lots of things that buy back chants, like Elixir's Love, or Spinning Aqua Soul, which is in color for this deck. Like, there's a lot of ways to be able to recycle them. So it's not necessarily, like, completely out of the ballpark. It is just the easiest way for us to actually interact with getting a J-Ruler to field outside of removal for the first time pretty much ever. Front side is TSW stasis support. Yeah, that's fair.
Charlie named it as Belial support.
Oh, that's also true. It is just straight up Belial support. Just like be able to redo your two sides.
Support right now.
That's 4 extra fucking God's Arts. I want you to die.
That's actually more if you use both God's Arts. So each one of these is 2 more free God's Arts, and if you're playing, that's actually, so this card is actually 8 more God's Arts on top of their Erythropia stones, which are also 2 more God's Arts each. So like,
Jeremy,
hey, you know what?
But
here's the thing. Belial also is just like, we have so much life loss stuff that's also not insane. Like, we have so much life loss that Belial's like, oh.
Yo, finally something to make Belial Beatrice a deck.
No. Stop.
I mean, that is white-blue. It's actually in color for white-blue Beatrice.
Everything's in color.
He's not, arguably, he's not wrong.
I'm correct.
Like,
you don't have to play Moonshades to play.
You don't have to play Moonshades to play.
Let's go.
Oh man, are we gonna have to revisit like Belial Beatrice null stun?
No.
I would yeah.
Every single tag roller with this in play.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Okay. So let's go on to the next card here. Confronting Eins. 1 blue, 2 colorless, quick cast. Even though it doesn't have the quick cast symbol, but it has the ability, which is important. You may play this card without paying its cost if your opponent has drawn 3 or more cards this turn, and the effect is draw 2 cards.
Wow. This card is useless.
That card is very much a normal. I mean, like, it's a sideboard. It's a sideboard concept for sure, because we do have decks that just draw a lot of cards, and like being able to like keep up with their card advantage for free is a potential. Again,
like
but that being said,
Eins-
it's a normal and very much feels like a normal. So
we're gonna open so many of these, and it's gonna be terrible. I really like the fact that Eins just coming in, just like foot out, like, hey guys,
yeah, just like, oh.
It's me.
So anyway, I started blasting.
Play the gears.
Metal Gear.
Metal Gear.
This card is so bad, it reminds me of Grim Arrow blue cards.
Oh wait, I just realized this card is quick cast. It doesn't have the little lightning bolts.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit of a miss error there.
It's fine. They knew nobody was gonna play it, so they just didn't care.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But we do get to see our first Cocoon. We do get to see our first Cocoon edition here. This is the Great Wall of the 12 Secret Knights. 1 blue, 1 white. Enter, draw a card. So keep in mind that these are the things that you can grab out of the sideboard at the beginning of the game with the rulers. Prevent all damage that would be dealt. It says you gain barrier. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to you. If 900 or more damage was prevented by this ability this turn, destroy this card. So it's a nice little buffer at the beginning of the game.
This card's just fuck burn. Like, we didn't need red to be worse than it is, but here it is.
I mean, like, yeah. The Cocoons feel...
For a free draw card? That seems pretty good to me.
Yeah, I mean,
You do extra card, which is,
yeah.
I had to have a singleton deck to do that, huh?
Yeah. The Cocoons, as we go through the Cocoons, you'll definitely see the idea that, like, if you're playing one of these rulers, you probably are sideboarding, like, 3 unique Cocoons and then choosing between them based on your matchup, which, honestly, I kind of really like because of the fact that, like, again, the rulers on their front side, even with the 2 partner rulers, just don't do anything. So the fact the fact that they give you this, like, beginning of the game, like, setup for the match flexibility, I actually really like a lot. None of them feel insane, and as you'll see of some of the other ones, they're really well designed to take advantage of the fact that they're coming in so early, or sorry, to nullify the advantage that comes with them coming in so early, which we'll talk about in a second, which I think is, again, really good design. But these are very cool cards. These are very cool.
Yeah, I like that it basically says you start at 49 life at the start of the game, plus you have 6 cards, and your opponent can't target you. I mean, if we did not get this at the start of the game, this card would be not worth playing.
Agreed.
But
so very importantly, additional effects that destroy additions are actually going to be valued much higher with these cards if they become more meta relevant.
Yep.
Cards like
and then Asmodeus.
Obviously, like I'll talk about it like that. I'll say, like, we'll use the original example of Blessed Holy Wolf being like a 4/6, which was bad stats for the cost, but it's got an additional effect to destroy an addition. And I feel like cards that just kind of have that will be more looked at. It's instead of like I'm actually going to talk about what Toby's talking about here. Where he's saying, pseudo extra deck. First of all, you have to take up room in your sideboard for this stuff. This isn't Sherry, this ain't Divinity, this ain't Strangers.
Correct.
Second of all, you put it on the field. It's not something that just, like, is there forever and nobody can interact with it, which is an issue I've always had with extra deck style mechanics.
Yeah.
And
well, the other thing is,
this is a card that your opponent can be like, all right, cool. Well, I have a 1-mana card that I can play, and also when it enters the field, it destroys target addition. And you're just like, oh, okay. I start off with a blank ruler again.
Yeah, the other thing is here is, like, it's taking a slot in your sideboard, but it's actually doing the job of a sideboard card. Like, it's just allowing you to tap into your sideboard, like, flexibilities and, like,
you're main decking your sideboard.
Essentially, it's a way to these cards specifically, because of the way the Cocoons are designed, more so than, like, last set's cards when revealed stuff. That was kind of really driven by Typhon's kind of gimmick, Typhon and Zeus. Like, these cards really feed into that, like, like you said, you're main decking your sideboard. It's this idea of, like, at the beginning of the game, if I know the matchup well enough, I can grab the, like, starting defense that I need to set this matchup appropriately. but it's not one-sided, right? Your opponent could also be doing that, or playing, or you could completely misread the game, the grab, and grab the wrong one, right? So that's why I said, like, you're, at least from the cocoons that we've seen, you're probably sideboarding like 2 or 3 unique ones, not like all 5.
Your game plan will revolve around one to start, but you can adapt your deck slightly in order to fit whatever cocoon you want.
Which rewards testing, creativity, and understanding of the meta. And for me, putting cards, making it so that that is rewarded by pulling a card out of my sideboard, I'm totally fine with. It makes for very interesting and deep, I think, gameplay, thinking about that level.
Wood gameplay.
Okay, so that's all for the blue-white. Now we're going to jump into like 2-card combos. Next up, we have Judgement of Solari. 1 white, 1 red. Choose 1. If you control a ruler under contract, you may choose up to 3 instead. This card deals 300 damage multiplied by X to your opponent, where X is the number of cards in your opponent's hand, and you gain that much life. Destroy all non-Magic Stone, non-J-Ruler entities your opponent controls, or destroy all rested J/Resonators your opponent controls. And Mastery is... Sorry, 1 second. And it has Mastery Messiah. So specifically, if you have Messiah under contract, you can tap Messiah to pay for this card. And keep in mind that Messiah on enter effect taps down your opponent's stuff. This card is very cool.
Yeah, something very important to talk about. Jeremy, I will correct you for a second. It is non-J/Resonator. Not
yes,
J
sorry.
/ruler.
Yeah, non-J/Resonator, yes.
But again, this goes into what we were talking about before, where it's like edition hate cards. This card is specifically designed, obviously, Regalia and edition hate. So having this card available to you actually means that red-white has a use outside of being the worst color combination in the game. And
arguably blue-red has always been the worst color combination in FOW, but
unless you're violet.
Close.
Unless you're violet.
We're like number 2. But anyway, the big thing about it is the fact that, like, obviously from its standpoint, like, you're obviously thinking about the ceiling of this card being as high as it is, but even at like just a base level, it is just destroy all rested J-Resties your opponent controls for 2, which is still very good. It is destroy all additions your opponent controls, which is great if you're playing against, I don't know, you're playing Wander, you're playing against Kaguya 4. You might as well make that deck worse again. And then at the end of the day, like, the other effect, it's just a stronger Crimson Ray. Only problem is that obviously it doesn't have quick cast, which makes it, arguably better or worse depending on what
exactly. It's this idea of like, and that's one of the reasons why I said at the outset, like, these marvels feel impactful, but also like the ceiling on them is significantly lower than the ceiling we've had with previous era marvels, which feels nice that we're like moving in that lower ceiling direction. So Javi, real quick, I'm sorry for the question, but what is contract exactly? So contract is the new mechanic. I'll pull one up here. With the new rulers of this set, essentially lore-driven wise, the power to perform judgment has been lost in this new world that we're in. And so you have these rulers, and they're all one-sided. All of them are one-sided. They do not have a J-ruler side. And so what happens is you have these chants. I'll pull up Aristella's real quick. So Contract of the Water Moon. So this is a chant that if you cast it and it has this ability, says you may contract this card with the appropriate ruler. If you have that ruler and you successfully resolve the chant and its contracting requirements, then what happens is your ruler gets flipped face down and the chant comes out of the sleeve, gets flipped over, put back in the sleeve, and put into the field as a J-ruler. So in the instance of Contract of the Water Moon, it becomes Fairy Tale King. And then if that J-ruler is killed, you then take it back, flip it back into the chant, put it in the graveyard, and flip your ruler back face up. So it's just kind of, it's moving the J-ruler side to successfully resolving chants. That's the gimmick of this cluster. So hopefully that kind of answers your question. Good question. Thank you. What do you think would it take to empower what are currently considered weak attributes or attribute combinations? Print better dual color cards for those attribute combinations. That's been the biggest hurdle, is that all of the dual color, like the dual color red blue cards have always been crap. They've just always, it's like, why bother playing this color combination for this card when I can either play all red and splash it into a different color, or all water and throw it in the trash anyway because I want to play different colors anyway.
Correct.
but that's been its biggest flaw, is that like those attribute colors, they're dual color cards that like push you into playing those color combinations together.
Let's
have just never been
the best example.
Have never been very good.
On one hand, black green got Athenia, who was so good she got banned.
Yeah.
On the other hand, red blue got Genshi Tensan.
Terrible card. Not worth playing water in a Fushi deck. Absolutely not worth playing water in a Fushi deck.
Unless you're bringing out Misty Dragon Spear with the Fushi Judgment.
I mean, that is something you can do. So hope that explains it. And also, Arthur, to answer your question, that's the biggest piece, is those dual color combinations. Their multicolor cards have just never justified trying to combine those colors, as opposed to just taking the best monocolored cards of those colors and putting them into other decks. Okay, so our second Cocoon here is Solari, the Religious Nation. 1 red, 1 white. Card enters the field rested. Tap, each player puts a 4/4 light human resonator token into the field. Banish a resonator token, you gain life equal to its defense. So that first line of text is hands down my favorite line of text on these cards from a design balance standpoint, because for those of you who don't know, both players in Force of Will skip their first recovery phase. Just does not get to recover. So even if you grab this, you cannot start using it until your second turn if you're on the play or on the draw. And for me, this idea of we're going to give you a card at the very beginning of the game, but you can't start using it right away is so good card design-wise. I absolutely love it. And this is clearly designed to support the new ruler. This is one of the ones where like I don't think you play this one outside of the red-white ruler, because like you're giving your opponent well, because she wants to give her opponent tokens so that she can kill them. Like that's the whole purpose of her deck. She does. She like specifically wants stuff on both sides to die. Her having a way to be able to force your opponent to have stuff so that she can then kill it is very integral to her design. This one probably doesn't see much play outside of her, but it's a cool card. Paul, thoughts?
Card?
I would say I'm glad this is not a Belial tool. Because once again, Belial is getting so much support in this set, it's ridiculous. But the idea that you're just like swing, I'm going to try and kill your token, sack it, gain the defense. Like that's not a thing. Thank God. So I'm glad that it's locked behind 2 will that Belial does not want to play. It's. I mean,
and also, even if Belial cast it, it would come into play tapped, because this card always enters the field rested.
Yeah, well, and that's why you don't play it in Belial.
Yeah.
It always comes into the field rested, when you could just play Castle of Belial and get an immediate token, and it prevents damage to you. This is worse for Belial.
Have does that mean you could lose the ability to Judgment if you don't have a spinning Aqua Soul? Well, technically you get to play 4 copies of the contract, or for certain rulers like Aristella, he'll have 8 contracts he could potentially play, or potentially could have more. We also have a lot of ways to be able to buy back Chance and put stuff back in the deck. So like there are a lot of recycle options, but you're not wrong in the fact that if all of your contracts get canceled and you don't have a way to buy back, you could just not be able to Judgment again. That's a good point. Mike, you were going to say something about this card?
Oh, this card's bad.
It's good because it's free.
Yeah.
You don't play it in the main
That's
deck.
the best thing about it.
Exactly. Right. 100%. I would agree. I'd agree. This card is a
generator.
Yep.
Very importantly about this card, though, is the fact that condition to banish a token
is not a tap effect.
It's not a tap effect, but very importantly, what was it? Mika's the Saint.
Mm-hmm.
She requires the resonator that you control and the resonator your opponent controls to be destroyed.
Destroyed, not banished.
So
yes.
it literally only does one thing to secure her own gameplay.
Right.
Which
Exactly.
I think is a huge detriment to the card. I don't think it's strong enough to make her viable from what we've seen so far.
Yeah.
Curious what the rest of
This
card's
card
like.
itself does not Mika make.
Right.
However,
Absolutely.
if you're playing Mika, you're gonna grab this because it's naturally gonna like it's like the setup card. It's like, hup, I'm trying to like set it for you so that something else can set up to spike it. And because we've had conversations in the Discord before this got posted of like Mika's contract is the most like manipulatable from your opponent's standpoint. They could just be like, well, something I have control has to die, and just won't play stuff. Right, and you can like really manipulate it.
I mean, same with Aristella's to bounce a thing to. I mean,
you can bounce your own stuff.
Right?
You can bounce your own shit. So like, but then having a card like this means that's not necessarily a viable strategy because Mika's going to be giving you stuff for her to be able to kill. So again, it's like it's a nice little setup card, but it's not insane. And even then, she can't start using it right away, which is nice. So good. I mean, good design. Next up, we have Bubba Bomb, the Marvel rare of Sealed One-Eyed Dragon. Here comes the boy, the second big old dragon made by the artist of Garion. Here comes the second boy.
Another boy.
Here comes Cocoon. Ooh.
So 1 red, 1 black, 7/7 with precision and bane. No first strike, mind you. Finally, something that doesn't have oh yeah, no drain bane, no first strike bane. Thank you. We finally gotten them to be separate. Pay 600 life, discard this card. This card deals 600 damage to target player or J Resonator. 600 life, discard this card, draw a card, or pay 1 red, 1 black. Play this ability only if this card is in your graveyard and you lost life this turn in any way. Put this card from your graveyard into the field. It gains swiftness until end of turn. At the next end of turn, its controller banishes this card. This card is so good. This card is so good while also not being backbreakingly like game breaking. This card is very, very nice. It's pseudo free, but also not, because like it does cause you to burn life. So that means that it is usable by kind of anyone outside of the red black deck. It naturally facilitates what Berserker wants to be doing by getting himself down to low life. It does
use like a truck.
It does have this really nice way to be able to buy it back, which is really nice. Its stat line is low. I mean, not low.
You can't say the stat line is.
I can't.
There's no stat line. There's no vanilla stats in Force Will anymore.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But like, like, for me, I guess my brain is like, I'm gonna reanimate a thing for a turn. I want it to be gigantic, right? That kind of idea. But like, his stats are just like that of a 2-drop, like maybe a little bit better. I'm
gonna be very real here. This card is insane to me for one reason only. That pay 2 effect and all of its effects are not only during your turn. This is one of the most flexible cards I've ever seen. Not only is it a combo potential because it's free draw, it's also free draw, free damage during your opponent's turn, and if you need to kill a big threat, it is the kill for the big threat. This card is absolutely fucking insane. It's so good. And it's very fair, which means you'll see no play. But it's great.
But like, the other thing that's nice about this is it's a good way to be able to like, this also messes with some decks that we currently have in format in a way that's very, very nice. I think of Zeus. One of the biggest ways that we see Zeus decks gets disrupted is like if you kill them in response to their ordered search so that they have to actually tap the Call Stone. It doesn't feel like that actually does a lot to a Zeus, but making them be tapped to steal from them an order, like steal a turn where they can order away from them over the course of a game can actually have a big impact. And there are other decks that do this as well. I have to step away for just a minute, but there's enough conversation that can be had about this card that I feel confident being able to leave you to it. So I leave you in the capable hands of these two gentlemen. Watch the chat, engage, and talk about Sealed One-Eyed Dragon for a little bit longer, because boy howdy is this card worth talking about.
I think it's nuts.
All right, guys, let's talk shit about Jeremy. Anyway.
This is the best Marvel in the set so far.
Yeah, guaranteed.
Regardless of context, the other cards might get better once we see more stuff, but generally speaking, this is the best one.
Something very important
this
about
is
this card, I
searchable.
will say. Yeah, obviously this card being searchable is fantastic. It's searchable in so many different ways. There's so many cards that search dragons, so many cards that search darkness resonators, bunch of cards that search fire resonators. Rookie just searches this and it's free damage when we go into Wanderer, obviously. But the pay 600 life, discard this card, draw a card, that line of text is so ridiculously good. I have a sneaking suspicion that there's going to be some weird Almerius combo deck that tries to take advantage of the fact that you start off with enough life to make this thing literally negligible in terms of what it does to you. Like, it's so strong.
Typhon can use 4 of it.
Almerius Milas can use it as a removal spell for when you go rested with the Milas. Like, that's insane to me. It's draw when you start drawing off of it. It's like, you know, it doesn't lose your card advantage in hand if you want to just find an answer. If you want to start looking, if you do like a 1E 0-cost Regalia Almerius Milas deck to just dunk on your opponent, this card goes in as a 4 of guaranteed.
Oh yeah, easily.
Like, there's so much you can do with this card.
Never mind if you open up multiples of these.
Yeah. I realize I just said Regalia deck, like,
the
dumping
2
your hand
will
is a good thing to do in Milas, but whatever.
If you discard this, you deal them the 6, and then you play it for its converted mana cost, right? You are dealing 13 in 1 turn, which is not bad.
This card represents a ton of damage too. That's true.
And with any Milas deck, you can do it on turn 1.
Yeah. Oh yeah, guaranteed. This is insane in a Milas deck. That's just like, pew pew. It's a 7/7. Yay!
Yeah, there are just so many good applications for this.
Oh my god, it says Lost Life too. Oh, if you're playing Moonshade and Almerius Milas with this?
Yes, you are.
Bro, this is so much damage potential. Oh my god. Actually, so insane. I can't believe this is a real card for that deck. I feel like people are gonna make so many really, really interesting decks with this card. Not only that, can we talk about the fact that this is also a reanimation target for March of the Dead once we go back into Wanderer? Like, you can pay 3 off of that March of the Dead, bring back 2 of these things, and just have 2 7/7 precision veins.
You can also just buy it back. Like with any black card that buys back, you can just buy this card back and discard it again.
Jumpy Black, how are you doing the 13? You discard it and pay 6 life to deal 600 damage to your opponent. Then you bring it back with its own effect to swing 7. That's possible turn 1 using Milos because you get the extra Fire Will and likely the Darkness Will that you're getting off of either your... Not either, because Magic of 6 Ages is banned, obviously, but the Magic of Moonshade will be the one to get you back into that darkness mana that you'll use to swing your opponent.
It says specifically life lost in any way, so including its own effect, it can come back out. This goes really well with Null Magic Stone, Majin Dark Elf.
Yep.
So like this is just a good aggro support tool for like darkness red strategies.
This card is like glue for that kind of deck. Like, honestly, that's one of the sickest things about it. Like, Freyla, yes. Malefic Yggdrasil, your life doesn't matter. Your life does not matter, Paul. Let's be very frank. This is burned.
Not another tree support.
Jeremy, you're muted.
Thank you. This card, this card for its flexibility as a removal spell, as also a body that you can kind of keep reusing for a lot of different ways, is actually going to breathe a lot of life into a lot of older decks because you're giving them access to such a will-efficient removal option that kind of fills in the gaps from some of their previous removals. Like, this card is absolutely going to see play in not only new stuff but old stuff in very cool and again, like Mike said, very, very strong, very, very fair, and I like this card a lot.
This is going into Pandora / Grimia decks in my.
Oh my gosh, absolutely! Spot removal that actually accelerates you towards the Grimia flip, absolutely, this card could see
that starts to do the Grimia flip, so you can draw your 3 weapons that you have access to.
Yeah,
let's go.
Let's go. like for
I
sure.
really wish weapons were better. Anyway.
Okay, so let's talk about the next Cocoon. So underground fighting arena in the Shadow Valley. What a long name.
Narrow Valley, German.
Oh, is it
Come on
narrow?
now.
My bad.
Narrow
You
Valley.
can't see because
One-
the text is so narrow.
It's yeah.
It's good.
one red, one black. Your opponent cannot gain life. J resonators you control gain +X+X, where X is the number of times J resonators you control attack this turn. So progressive damage the more stuff you're able to do, which is very cool for decks that like to go wide, and also very cool for like red deck strategies with things that are like make a bunch of tiny dudes and have them all swing in. Looking at you, Swarming Cthulhu. Like this is a card that has, in my opinion, this one and the Wall are the ones that are going to see play in every Cocoon deck. Because of the fact of like this one has that like your opponent can't gain life. So if you're not worried about being burned, you can say like, I just want to have my opponent's life total be this and just like lock it there. Right. As opposed to like being protection. This is very much more flexible, unlike the Solari one. But even then, it's also just very good for Berserker because you want to be able to swing. Keep in mind, this does say J/Resonator, so it also buffs up Berserker when he swings multiple times in a turn. He'll just continue to get bigger and bigger, which is a very cool little nod to his kind of gameplay strategy.
Oh, Cthulhu train aggro. That's still a thing.
Someone tried to. Someone successfully did the Cthulhu Infinite at our locals, and then he played against. And then he played against someone who knew what it did and immediately failed to do it.
Correct. That's the game plan, baby. Let's go.
But
One.
Yeah, but someone successfully cast infinite Cthulhu's in a single turn.
The Cthulhu circus.
Yeah, this is a very like, again, for the cards that are good. I think Mike summed it up really well with the last Marvel. For the cards that are good, these cards are good, strong but fair. And I think, as we've seen from the design so far, if we have an entire set that is strong but fair, and that just is like what we're gonna do moving forward, sign me the hell up for sure.
Jeremy, back in my day, we had to have a rule that said both players can't gain life. Nowadays, y'all newfangled kids and your opponent can't gain life, and your attack buffs and Cocoon additions, and you know what I'm talking about.
Truth be told, I mean, like to be fair, the most recent can't gain life card that was printed did say neither player can gain life,
Yeah,
and it
but
already
it was also a demonic world, so it was trash.
yeah.
Oops. Oh no, all the Wolfgang shills are gonna be like, "Oh, Mike, you're wrong." Ooh, and I'll be like, "Here, try canceling this," and I'll just throw whatever I have. I'll literally just put a witch on the table. I don't care, dude.
Okay, let's talk about our next one. This is Moo Moo, not Mimi. Moo Moo, servant of Falchion, a Moo Moo tribe. One green.
I didn't read that part, Jeremy.
Yeah, Moo
I
Moo.
think it's a Mew Mew.
No.
Tribe?
Moo Moo. Moo Moo.
Not
Why
cow.
can't they just give us legacy support, Jeremy?
Moo Moo. Anyway, servant of Falchion from the Moo Moo tribe. So 2 cost, quick cast 7/7. Enter, produce 2 will in any combination of blue and or green. Spend this will only to play chance. Tap, recover target magic stone you control. If you have a ruler under contract, you can recover up to 2 magic stones you control. Instead, play this ability only once per turn and only if you played a chant this turn. Fair Melfi.
They just keep
So
printing this
logical
card, dude. They just keep getting away with it, dude. I don't know why when they think they're gonna stop getting away with this card.
I mean, this is fair Melfi.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna this, I'm gonna Melfi, and I'm gonna this, and I'm gonna Melfi, and I'm gonna this, and I'm gonna Melfi. And I'll show you how fucking fair Melfi is.
Incoming
It's impossible, 'cause Melfi
incoming
doesn't
triple combo ban. You cannot play Read Writing Laws plus or Melfi or Moo Moo all in the same deck. Just like you have to pick one.
I'm losing my shit.
You can only pick
It's a quick cast.
you can only pick 1 2-drop green produce 2 will cards.
I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. I'm playing Welser, so I get to recover a stone. And I can recover a stone while I recover a stone. And I can. That's the whole play. That's the whole thing.
Mike is seizing.
I am seizing. Also, Moo Moo Tribe? Come on! We just got Mimi support.
Nah.
Ah,
This card's
Wait,
fine.
Oh wait, the card is called
Moo Moo.
Moo Moo.
Yeah. It's a Moo Moo
And
tribe.
it's Moo Moo Tribe.
Yeah.
Hope we get a
Moo
camera
Servant of
later.
Falchion.
Just call it servant.
Why the
Minotaur.
extreme?
Yo, Minotaurs in Moo Moo Tribe for the Moo Moo because it's a cow.
I mean, she does have horns.
You got horns though. In the future, maybe tribes have horns.
Do it, I Spy. Technological Minotaur myth, but like technology.
Moo, Falchion, let's see.
Labyrinth.
Moo.
Lasers
Oh,
and
she
crap.
says moo instead of. Come on. What? It's so. far in the
Okay,
future
moving
they
on to the
replaced
next.
I
Moving on to the
with
next
you.
edition. So this is Eternal, the artificial archipelago. This card enters the field rested. Other additions you
What's the name
control.
again, Jeremy?
Eternal, artificial archipelago.
Thank you.
This card enters the field rested. Other additions you control gain barrier. Tap, produce blue or green. Spin this wheel only to play chance. This card doesn't recover during its owner's next recovery phase.
I'll put
Once
this on my
again,
list of
it is the card.
cards.
It is the
Those are
card
not
that is
eternal.
going to be the first grab for Falchion, and outside of that, I'm not going to see play.
So yeah, I was about to say like this is checking other box off for cards that literally would not see play without the phrase Cocoon on them.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to talk about the elephant in the room?
Yeah, go for it.
So Drywing is a card.
It's very true.
So you wonder why I haven't seen Malfi lately? I
Yeah.
wonder why. So this is leading to some. We were talking about this in our Team Kiki chat because of course we have a Team Kiki chat.
Yeah, Team Kiki's in the chat.
What team?
Also, yeah, Team Kiki's in the chat for Team Kiki.
Yeah.
Wait, wait, why am I not involved in this? I am Mr. Kiki.
You are Mr. Kiki.
Boom. He's in the chat.
Kiki's in the chat.
So we have begun speculating that this deck, based on its main, like, core things that it wants to do, like produce a bunch of will to play more chance, to probably play Melfi, to probably also produce will off of Eternal
It's the Storm deck.
every other turn. That's the starter pack. How then do you play against a deck that is probably going to be playing Drywing?
Unless they combo ban
That's the big
Origins
question.
plus, unless they combo ban Origins plus Drywing.
Yeah, so we're thinking about, is that combo ban coming? It would make the game space a little bit more freed up.
Mhm.
It would mean this deck gets to survive. It would mean decks like Welser get to survive.
Mhm.
And actually do things they want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that would be fair, because Drywing wasn't necessarily meant to be in every deck.
Yeah, that's fair.
Every deck because Origin
KK
7
does not
lands
love you.
exists.
I don't
Yeah.
care if KK doesn't love me. Kiki does.
Yeah, I mean, like the competitive viability of Falchion with the way he's at least designed right now from these two cards will heavily depend on how well he can either interact with an early Drywing or how early Drywing is going to come out in the format outside of Typhon. Right? If the combo ban from Origins plus Drywing does come out, then the only deck that really has to be concerning is Drywing. It is Typhon. That being said, there's a card that we'll talk about later, which also makes me like, there's like a whiplash there, right? Of like, if we suddenly tell the Storm deck that it can just produce will for free abandon and not have to worry about it necessarily, there's some concern there, some like whiplash, because we've seen that combo format happen before. But I will say that later on in this podcast, we're going to see the card that was kind of designed to maybe kind of tell that to slow down, which we'll talk about here. Every time we say fair, it scares me. I can't imagine the cards you have seen. I mean, from the past, like
I've literally played Force of Will.
for 7 years. Yeah. Compare-
Basically carnivals, and you know what they have at carnivals? They have clowns, and you know what clowns are? Definitely scary. So I can understand.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about this next one. So
Oh,
this is
shut up.
this
Anyway.
is this is Revenant. 1 green, 1 black, 0/0 with flying, drain, and barrier chant. So once again, keeping that drain bane separate from each other.
I can't believe Drain Bane's not on this card.
It's got drain but not
I
bane.
can't believe it's
It
not
can't-
Drain Bane.
This card, and it's a vampire. It's a vampire without flying drain bane. Like, it's been so long. It's been 100 years. This card gets +2/+2 for each different name among all cards in your graveyard. Banish a magic stone. Target J/Resonator your opponent controls gain -6/-6 until end of turn. If you control a ruler under contract, destroy the target instead.
This card is okay.
This card is... I want to see more of the stuff that is very clearly coming for Asuka that is going to bring her stones back. Like, very clearly coming
Also,
to be able to
John
recycle
Thank you
stones.
for laughing in Spanish in the comments. Much appreciated.
Yeah. Yeah, this card is very, very cool. I think it probably sees some slot in like decks, like, you know, obviously it becomes probably an automatic one of in every singleton ruler, because, you know, it's just gonna get huge and huge and huge.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because it's just a
I'm
bunch
gonna
of
play
different
this
names.
in Epic Stories with that new ban list that just dropped 25 minutes ago.
Which I don't think that ban list went far enough. You can still play Zeus.
Sure can.
That's a mistake.
Rip.
That's everything I needed to know.
Yeah, you can still play. You can still play Zeus in Epic Stories. This is a mistake, even with only one.
Time to make Cal upset again.
Yeah, just play Zeus plus literally any other ruler and have a good time.
Oops. No drawbacks.
Except that you only get to play one Zeus enters the game of gods instead of 4. But also, like,
Wait.
oops.
Wait, no you don't. Doesn't it say on the card that you can play 4 of it? Doesn't that supersede that?
I think deck building restrictions of the format would still limit you to only being able to play
No, I'm
one.
pretty sure you can still play 12 Komodos in Kaguya. I think it's in actual gameplay. You can't play...
Well,
I'm pretty
just play
sure
Zeus! Just play Zeus plus 20 extra cards! Here we go!
So Revenant seems good with Rhea.
Yeah, also, this is
Sure does.
this is a very cool card. This is a very cool card. I like
Yeah.
it a lot.
Reminds me of Gil Lapis, Inheritor of the Sacred Star, or whatever.
Reminds me of prokaryotic being, baby.
Also prokaryotic being,
Let's
but
talk
better.
about the big elephant in the room. Puny eukaryotic non-revenants. Galactic
Something
Maru
happened.
is not a vampire. That explains everything. Man, I miss Jordan's localizations as much as I miss his terrible comments and awful Q&As.
Yeah. So, anyway.
Also,
Paul,
any
you...
Harvesting Season deck likes this.
Harvesting season decks like this for sure. Like it very much, like, again, I think how crucial that second ability is comes down to how easy is it for Asuka to be able to buy back stones.
We also do have Horn.
We do have Horn to be able to recycle it, so like we do have ways to be able to miss
Asuka,
it.
if they're playing this card, they definitely want to be playing Horn.
Yeah, for sure. This card is very cool. I like it a lot. It only has barrier from chance, so it's not just like another. It's not just the next. It's also not just like the next Pharesia.
Yeah.
A card that was pretty traditionally almost insanely hard to kill
Very
once it's stuck on board.
importantly, About that second ability, having the Banished Magic Stone give something -6/6,
Mhm.
blah blah blah. That ability is not meant to be used as a control ability. That's a game ender.
Yeah, very much so. It is
Like,
designed
guaranteed.
it's designed to combo trick so that he can shoot you in the face. Like that's that's how it's designed.
Also, let's talk about the fact that Banished Magic Stone adds to your different name among cards in your graveyard, so it actually
Correct.
powers them up at the same time.
And also you can
Yeah.
tap Float Will and then banish the stone. So like
Yeah.
again, he is designed to be the
Gross.
he's very much designed to be the finisher who self facilitates finishing.
Institute?
Institute.
I mean, by banishing stones though, you'll have less names, so he won't get as pumped.
Whatever.
Okay. Anyway, moving on.
Institute?
I mean, it is Paul's favorite card. So,
Definitely.
and then let's talk about the last Cocoon that we've seen, which is Pyramida of the Dead. 1 black, 1 green. This card enters the field rested. Cards in your graveyard cannot be removed from the game by spells or abilities your opponent controls. Put the top 2 cards of your deck into the graveyard. This card's pretty good. This card's pretty dang good. Just not even just for Asuka. The Reanimator strategies in general like this card. Does this see play in any of the other Cocoon decks? Unless you're trying to play some weird... I mean, I could see Berserker possibly playing this if you're trying to play like a Reanimator style Berserker kind of idea, which definitely feels like there maybe something is there. But
thank God Athenia does not get this card.
yeah, for sure.
Very importantly, for anybody in the comments who also was wondering what a paramita is, it is a Buddhist term often translated as perfection. It is described in Buddhist commentaries as noble character qualities generally associated with enlightened beings. So I don't know what this artwork is representing being a graveyard when a paramita
Perfection
is...
of the dead.
Sure, man, whatever.
Preservation. It could be the idea of preservation of the dead.
Could be. I don't know why it's an addition, but that's fine.
Preservation of the dead is like, you know, they've been preserved, hence the protection.
They haven't been preserved.
Yeah, this is a very cool card. This is a very cool card.
I just realized this card's neato because it doesn't prevent you from banishing things from your grave.
Yep, it just prevents your opponent. Yep,
that's pretty nice.
It is very
But
nice.
Horn still affects your graves.
Which is
target.
Yeah, it doesn't target.
And also doesn't remove. Oops.
Haha.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is
next.
Next under the paramita. That's nice.
Next up we have Phantasmal Marsh Hare. 1 white, 1 colorless, 6/6. Enter. Put target resonator with total cost 1 or less your opponent controls to the bottom of its owner's deck. God's Art, Hare's Gift. Pay 0. Produce white or blue. Sure is a normal rare. Sure is a card that has a God's Art on it. There you go.
It's got a God's Art on it. That's fine.
I mean, that's gonna be the biggest piece. Is like pretty much.
Wait a minute.
I'm gonna finish my sentence yet.
Don't put it in Belial.
Oh, that's true. It would be a card that resolves the God's Art, so you have another turn of protection.
Baby, let's go.
Belial support. Anyway, so Phantasmal March here. Yeah, this is a very clearly normal rare. It's a tempo card that could bounce a 1-drop, which honestly a 2-drop that bounces a 1-drop to the bottom of its owner's deck. That's actually not bad. Like being able to shift, especially, you know, that's not bad at all. The God's Art being 0 is like, if the God's Art cost any amount of will, it'd be terrible. The fact that it's 0 means that, like, even if you're playing it into something like a revealed Drywing, like, you just need the God's Art to resolve to be able to contract. So that's not absolutely backbreaking. It's still not great, obviously. But like, this is a normal. It feels like a normal. It will probably also be in the starter deck. Like, I imagine this is a card that's going to go in the starter deck for Aristella. It feels like a starter deck card. Nothing to write home about, but does really give us a good glimpse into the fact that probably every single card in Aristella's deck is going to have a God Art attached to it, which, thank you. Like, if you're going to make a ruler that needs to resolve God's Arts in order to function, giving them a suite that have God's Arts readily accessible is practically necessary, and it's good. And don't make them insane, please.
Correct.
Considering that, like, that J ruler, our Chrono Gear J ruler that we want is 4 will, you need ways to cheat will. That into play is like, But in draft, this thing is going to be good. I mean, this thing kills tokens, which we do have a deck in this format that is going to want to generate tokens, so that has some use there. It is on a 2-drop, which is unfortunate. But the fact that it produces will kind of redeems it, and it's got a decent stat line.
Yeah.
It's just probably not something I would play in Constructed.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially not something that I would hunt for in Constructed when Drywing is around, if there are better God's Art choices in the 2-drop slot. Like, if Drywing wasn't...
It's better when Drywing's gone.
Yeah,
certainly.
for sure. Like, it certainly becomes a consideration for the 2-drop slot if the Origins combo ban takes place. Otherwise, I imagine there will probably be better God's Arts in the 2-drop slot to be able to make use of. It shows the space of how they see God's Arts on different rarities. Yeah, because we're about to see a super rare.
Sure are.
So this is Raymond. Everybody loves Raymond.
This joke that I'm gonna make a deck that abuses this card. I'm gonna call Everybody Loves Raymond. Anyway, continue.
This is Raymond, member of the 12 Sacred Knights. 3 cost, quick cast, 10/10. Enter. J resonators you control gain +2/+2 and eternal until end of turn. When this card leaves the field, recover a J ruler you control. J, draw a card. God's Art. Pay 1 white, reveal this card from your hand, put this card from your hand into the field. At the next end of turn, if you don't control a ruler under contract, put it back on the bottom of its owner's deck. This card's very good.
Everybody loves Raymond.
This card is very good. This card is very good.
This thing has a lot going for it in a lot of ways.
Feels like a super. Feels like a super for sure.
It definitely feels like a super. It reminds me of like that OG 6-drop Welser that you could do the same effect with, right?
Yeah, just God's Art into the field.
So fun.
Oh
Such
man,
a
this thing's
cool card. So
This one's just
underutilized.
that, but as a buff spell too. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is
Well,
very cool.
Again, this is a really good piece of Belial support because you can just pay 1 and reveal it, and then you have a 10/10 on the field, and you can't lose the game, and you draw a card, and then you draw another card.
You only draw 1.
You recover a J/ruler you control, which means if you tap with Belial, you can recover it and draw a card. Or if you tap with Asmodeus, because you sack
I think
something
Belial
off and
God's
draw
Art's
it.
for 0 to draw a card, Paul.
Yeah, Belial is pay 0, Goddard, draw a card.
Oh, that's not the Fallen. You're right. Never
Isn't
mind.
Beatrice? I think Beatrice is the one that draws a card if you have exactly something in hand, right?
If you have 0 cards in hand at the end of the turn, Beatrice triggers and draws you an extra card.
It's
Oh
bad,
yeah,
don't
right.
do
She's
it.
bad. Yeah, anyway.
Okay, let me explain it. So essentially,
Yeah. go for it.
this guy has a card as an ability while he's in the hand that once per game, if you haven't already used this before, you can pay 1 and reveal him from your hand. If your opponent then lets that ability resolve, he goes from hand to field, will then trigger his enter effect to give everybody +2/+2 in eternal. And then if you don't have a ruler under contract, so that chant that you flipped into a J ruler, at the end of the turn, if that J ruler doesn't exist, he will go from field to the bottom of your deck. So he'll only stick around for a turn. But then if that happens, he will then trigger his recover a ruler you control, draw a card. So if you don't have a ruler under contract, he replaces himself at the end of the turn. And again, that's only 1 time used per game, unless you play Flight of the Excalibur to then be able to use it more times. Hope that explanation breaks it down for you. Card's very cool. I like him a lot. Looking forward to playing 4 copies of him in Aristella. Because who dang. Even as a 3-cost quick cast card, like, it's pretty good. Okay, I gotta go into here because my stuff downloaded. We got 2 more cards to look at. And they downloaded into a weird
What happens
place.
when I blink it? You draw a card if you
draw
recover
a
a
card.
J/ruler you control.
You don't even have to recover a J/ruler you control. It just says recover a J/ruler you control, period, draw a card.
Period, draw a card.
So
Yeah.
every time you
Plus,
flicker it, he just
you
draws a
draw-
card. Yeah.
Draw
like that
in
looks on
light
your ruler.
that isn't Dark Alice?
Next up we have
Wow.
Jean, the Light Punisher of the Solaris Order. We've seen this card before. Nothing.
Jean?
This is the buy a box promo. Just the like other artwork of her being like in the nun armor as opposed to the like Valkyrie armor. Both artworks are gorgeous. This sure is a
Jean
1-drop.
Since Grim Cluster.
Yeah,
Come on, man.
Rhea Cluster.
Jean.
She's been around for longer than that.
Jean.
Grim Cluster. Jeremy and I played a
Since
feature
Grim
match.
Cluster.
No,
Yeah.
I gave Jeremy a deck for a feature match. That was John.
Yeah, Jean. This is Jean. She's a card.
John.
We've seen her
She's-
before. Nothing really much to take a stick at. But
She's
we have
cool.
one more card to talk about. And who, boy, is there allowed to talk about it. This is Angelic Battle Barrier. 1 white, 1 colorless, quick cast chant. You may play this card without paying its cost if your opponent played 2 or more spells this turn. Your opponent cannot play spells until the end of turn. If you control a ruler under contract, draw a card. It's another silence!
What?
And it has the exact same polarizing effect on the opinion of people as all silences do. and it does the exact same job as all other silences, which means it's either insanely good because we're in a combo format, or it's insanely bad because we're in a tempo format. The only difference with this one being the fact that it can be sideboarded by any deck, which honestly I think is the only redeeming quality about this card, because it also just threatens combo decks and makes them have to feel scared going into games 2 and 3, regardless of the matchup. And in my opinion, good. Make combo decks feel scared.
It's also another card for the Wanderer and Epic Story banlist committees to consider possibly banning, which means that everybody has job security.
This card is, I mean, like, again, I'm not going to advocate for more silences. I'm not concerned about this card. Because also we've literally had a 6-month format of so many, or maybe even more, like 9 months, I think, at this point. It's at least 6, if not more months, of Dance of Spirits being in the format and being absolute trash. Like, card is like not good. We thought it was good because we could stop people from ordering, and then the order people went, well, if people are going to play Dance of Spirits, we'll just play around that fact and just have a lot of interaction so that when they Dance of Spirits us, we'll just go, okay, cool, call stone, pass, and then punish them during their turn. And that's exactly what happened, and we all immediately stopped playing Dance of Spirits.
Let's also something very real about this card. The reason Dance Spirits saw a lot of play in the formats where it was supposed to be like the order killer. Jeremy, do you want to tell me about a card that can bring back a Resonator from grave to hand every single turn?
Valentina?
No, we're talking about the edition that does it.
Oh, the edition that goes from grave to hand every single turn?
No, the Castle Beatrice that brings you back.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the
Resonator.
infinite recycling of the silence.
This is not a Resonator, so
Yes.
you can't do that.
And even back then, it was bad.
Correct.
Like, here's the thing. We printed another silence. The only thing that's different about this silence as opposed to the previous silences is that it's a anti-combo silence that any deck can board if they expect combo decks in the format. And like, it still lets the combo deck resolve 2 spells. There is this there is an element of this card that by nature makes the before recovery phase weaker. And to that I say kind of good. Because for the past like 2 years, the most influential phase of a turn was the draw before recovery. Like, that phase has actually been like pretty like devastating for a long time. And so this card by existing does like take some power away from that, in a way that like you have to consider it, but it's very easy to play around this. Absolutely, we're in a format where quick cast dudes exist like freaking everywhere. Activate abilities that not only summon things, but also reanimate things, but also can be used as responses to things, exist everywhere. Judgments are still very much a thing. Like, there's so many things that play around silences that silences themselves are not inherently detrimental to the format anymore, as they were, or not as backbreakingly debilitating as they were back in the original era of Force of Will. That being said, again, on record, not advocating for the printing of another silence. I don't really know why this was printed or why they thought another silence was needed. But my point on silences in this day and age of Force of Will is that they're either very, very good, and that's only for like one tournament because people then notice it and play around it, or absolute trash the rest of the time.
Jeremy, can I go off about the Severing Winds comparison real quick?
Sure. And then I will add my thoughts if I have anything by comparison. Go for it.
I do have thoughts after this too.
Perfect. Let me choke for a second.
Don't die, Mike.
I won't. I need to talk about Severing Winds.
Don't accidentally log off from life.
So Judgement Black does bring up the Severing Winds debate, which is a heated debate right now, and I have to come in and obviously say that Angelic Barrier, Battle Barrier, ABB, is nowhere near as good as Severing Winds was. Because Severing Winds was able to be used immediately after the first spell that was cast the turn, not the second.
This does start being used starting immediately at the second. Like, you can do
but
this
it
in
doesn't stop the second spell.
Correct.
That's the biggest thing.
That's the biggest piece.
It does not.
It's not a cancel. Like, that's the biggest piece about this, is it's not a cancel.
Your opponent has done so many things to hurt you by the time they've played 2 cards. The 3rd card does not matter at that point. If you
Or the 3rd card might be quick cast, and they just do it in response to your angelic battle barrier anyway. Like,
exactly, and it's like, oh no, you've got in the middle of my combo. Time for me to slip this combo piece into the middle of my combo, and then continue the combo while I combo, and you get comboed by the combo that you comboed into the combo. Yeah, this card is like fine.
Yeah,
it's fine. It's in a bad color. CCG Prime, that unbanned law. No, law's in a good color. This is in a bad color.
I would argue that a lot of the Severing Winds comparison comes from the fact of it's able to be cast for free at the same timing that Severing Winds was. To that point, it is not a cancel, it is a silence. So again, let's even walk back in time, right? You can't bring Severing Winds back into this format because, once again, it is a hard cancel. So not only am I for free am actually stopping an action you're taking. This card says I for free am telling you stop taking actions, but I'm not actually stopping any action you've already taken. And again, this is why if we're in a tempo format, which I honestly heavily expect us to be shifting into, and I think that's kind of what the combination ban list has kind of been shifting us into, outside of Zeus, is like I only need to resolve 2 cards per turn to like start applying pressure. And we're also in an era, again, by comparison of Severing Winds to Silence, where we were in an era back when Severing Winds was like at its heyday peak, right? Where, again, so few cards of actually applying pressure to the game had quick cast. It's one of the things that made Sherry so insanely good, is that she got to make all of her Resonators quick cast where everyone else still had to resolve cards. So then she's acting at quick cast speed, so she can outplay Severing Winds while playing it, and other decks had to actually be applying progressive pressure through free cancels. This does not actually stop you from applying tempo-based pressure, which is, again, what Severing Winds stopped and why Severing Winds was so bad for the format. Severing Winds was not a healthy card. This card is, again, did they need to print it? Probably not. Am I concerned that they printed it? Really, no. Really, no. Like, we were playing Silmeria in Order Killer, and we played it, I think, we played Silmeria in Hungry Box, and immediately after that tournament, I think we cut it.
Yep.
Like, I think we started it at 4. I think we started it at 3, and I think when we played Hungry Box, it was already down to 2. And on the plane ride home away from that tournament, winning that tournament with Hungry Box, we cut Silmeria because it was absolute trash. Like, the silence was not helpful. So suddenly bringing another silence into what is effectively the same feeling format is not gonna do much. Paul, you had thoughts.
So let's also. Oh.
Yeah. So I happen to remember one of my favorite light cards is Flute.
Yeah.
And the fact that you have a dork in white that is probably going to be want to be running a deck that has pretty high costed stuff. I can imagine this card would see play in that, mostly because you have a Moonchild that says your opponent can only play 1 spell per turn. So you're kind of locking your opponent turn 1 of the game. Turn 2, you have a Flute and 2 stones. So now you're at 3 will, so you can cast this relatively cheaply. It punishes Falchion, which is kind of what we were alluding to earlier, and also punishes decks like Falchion, so Wowser in addition to that.
Yeah.
If you happen to have a ruler under contract, which I think you play this over Silmeria in Aristella only because it does replace itself, I think that's probably the best text on the card.
Yeah.
When you have a ruler under contract, draw a card. That's probably the best text on the card.
Yeah. This is
so
the
you're
only
basically locking your opponent out of playing stuff so you can set up.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay.
This is, but like, and a big thing to talk about that point of like why that's not necessarily backbreaking is because of, again, like I said, the level of interaction that we have created in Force of Will for actually being able to apply pressure during your opponent's turn is drastically greater than we did back in the day. It used to be, oh, I was silenced. guess I'm going to have a clear board until my next turn. That's not the
Rolling
case.
Stone.
That's not the case in Force of Will, right? Not only are you going to have probably ways to be able to generate board advantage, but you're also going to be having access to a lot more tools to be able to interact with your opponent and everything else. Essentially, what silences in Force of Will now do, when combo decks have been kind of like nerfed super hard, is silences say, okay, whatever you were going to do during that turn, like you just have to, dang it, Mike, every single time.
Mike, silence.
Mike has been silenced. Every single, like, silences in Force of Will now just say, okay, I knew you had a game plan for your turn. You have to think about doing something else. And that isn't bad. Like, inherently, that's not, like, debilitating. Because if you're building a deck properly, you should be able to go, okay, well, I was going to do this, but that's not the only thing that I could do, so I can adjust, right? And that's why a silence isn't necessarily as, like, concerning in terms of annoying, for sure. I think we can all agree that silences are annoying, but backbreaking or debilitating, no. The best part about this card is that if you feel like you're going into a combo format, regardless of your color scheme, you can sideboard it and know that you have something, which is nice. I'll just say that. It is nice.
That being said, it does set a precedent, which I feel is a little frustrating, but I think that's what people are keying in on, right? So people have named, like, oh, we have Fair's spell, oh, we have ways to stop it, you know, we have, like, other ways to get around it. It's not nearly as bad. That's true.
Sure.
I'm not going to call it power creep. I'm wondering what this does to the design space when you have to consider, like, how many different silences are we going to allow in the space, and, like, how relevant is that going to be? So, like, potentially going to the future, this card, along with Dance of Spirits, could be potentially very problematic.
For sure.
Right now, it's not that bad.
If we're in
contract rulers are going to be good.
If we're in a tempo format, silences are terrible. If we're in a combo format, silences
they're better,
have much more higher playability. So this previous format was a tempo control format, because we got the combo bans, took out all the combo decks. So it was a lot of, like, play, you know, 1-2 punches. So a silence not going to do much. The question is, in the next format, are we going to see the rise of combo decks trying to come back, and therefore this card's going to be relevant again, or are we going to still be in an aggro tempo combo, or aggro tempo control format? So that'll be the big question about this. Okay, Vampire, you know what I'd like to see? Rulers with both a benefit and a downside for both players. A light ruler with spells cannot be canceled. Players can only play spells during his or her own turn. It'd be interesting. They typically don't create rulers that are drastically impactful about how your opponent's deck can play. Like, to that point, right? The closest thing we have is, like, Dark Tree saying players can't gain life. And that impacts, like, the entirety of the game state. But in terms of a ruler straight up having impact and impacting the text of cards in your opponent's hand, they're not going to print rulers that just start the game and apply that kind of effect. Since Paul's talking about contract, are old rulers limited in any way due to new rulers having contract spells? I know there's power creep, but how would they remedy this? I mean, like, Judgment and Order, I think, are comparable in power to contract. I don't think contracting a ruler isn't... Mike, we cannot hear you. I don't think that... I don't think the contracts themselves are inherently more powerful than Judgment or Order. To answer your question.
I'm unmuted now.
Thank you.
I heard loudness behind me, so I forgot. Very important fact as well. Contract rules can't get imperishable.
Correct.
It's true. There are very clear drawbacks to contract rulers. You get 4 of them, and that's great, but there are significant downsides. Like, they can be canceled now. You can bring them back, but they can be canceled.
Yep, and you also don't start with them.
Costs.
You don't start with them readily available, and your starting side of your ruler is practically blank text.
I love blank rulers.
So
Yeah,
I mean,
you get a Cocoon and you get 4J rulers.
a couple gods arts that are like situationally good or bad.
I guess Aristella gets 8.
Yeah, Aristella gets 8 Judgement
8 J rulers.
So yeah, not fun. Like, I wouldn't consider the creation of contract to be a power creep over order and judgment. Because there are drawbacks
it's
to
a
it.
different direction.
Yeah, it's just a different take.
To, like, Fusion Synchro Xyz summoning in Yu-Gi-Oh! They're just different. They're just different design spaces.
Yeah, for sure. And that, as they say, is that. That is the last spoiler. Thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us and having a good conversation, asking great questions. Those of you who are new to the chat, Java, thank you so much for asking such good questions. I hope we were a helpful resource for you. If we like what we did, there's a couple ways that you can consider supporting us. You can go ahead and click subscribe, of course, and share out the channel. You can also click that like button, as well as click that join button down below to consider giving to us financially. You can also leave a tip. It's like a kudos thing. It's thanks, I think is what it's called, if you want to do that. Goes to help support the channel and purchase new equipment and all kinds of cool stuff. Otherwise, you can support us just by continuing to watch and be here. This coming weekend is the Minnesota GP. We're pretty much taking this entire week off to get ready for the new GP, although we will have the Dark Tree deck profile from the deck last week up later this week for you to watch. And this weekend's the Minnesota GP on Saturday and Sunday. As a reminder, the chat for those is exclusively accessed to members only. The stream itself is not, so you can watch without being a member. You just won't be able to talk with us, and we love to be able to talk with you. So consider checking that out this weekend. As always, if you like what we're seeing, you can click the pre-order link down below for Odyssey Games to get those, as well as you can check out the event information for the Foul Fest in November, Foul Fest 2022. We're currently on the docket for, I think, over 10 grand in cash and stuff. Like, already on the, like, if I'm adding it all up value-wise, it's already over 10 grand worth of stuff that we're giving away. So it's going to be a very, very fun show. So go ahead and check that out as well. But until next time, this has been myself, DMO73, and I've been joined as always by Mike Rance.
Peace outie, Scouties.
And Paul Reisman.
Yeah.
Saying class dismissed. Have a good night, everybody.